We gotta tell you about Machete Man, because you gotta tell him how you almost died in Belize. Mike had a very eye-opening experience and life-threatening experience. Okay, Mike and Jack went to Belize on a missions trip, and I'm curious, what did you eat when you were there in a third world country where there's no doors, no windows on the houses, and dirt floors, trash everywhere, you said.
Well, only in certain areas was the trash everywhere.
Was it kind of like the United States?
Yeah, it was only certain neighborhoods where the trash was everywhere, but it was definitely third world. Definitely, a lot of people had no power. A lot of people had no water at their houses.
So what kind of food did you have compared to the United States?
It was Belizean food.
By the way, we're going to talk about the guy that came after them with the machete in just a second.
It was, there was a lot of fruit, a lot of fresh fruit, some of the fresh fruit isn't what you would expect based on being in America, though.
What did you eat?
As far as the fruit?
Yeah.
Well, it was like, watermelon was similar to here, and pineapple was similar to here, but probably it was better. Probably just because it was right off the plant.
Tree, yeah.
And a lot of fruits like papayas and things like that were right off the plant. There was some sort of a fruit that they had that you can get in the store here, but it's not common. I can't remember what it was, but I didn't like it too much. Was it the mango? I don't know. They had mangoes too. No, I think the mangoes were good there.
Okay. What else did you eat?
Oranges were green.
Oh, that's
and they
weird.
were
okay.
All of the. So if you're in the U.S. and you're used to your wonderful seedless fruit, you're not going to get that. And that was fine. The fruit was good. It was fine, but like the oranges they tasted a little more like grapefruit, and they were kind of really pithy in the middle with a lot of seeds. So they tasted good, but you had to kind of manage them, kind of like you used to have to manage watermelon here.
So what did you have for breakfast? This video is brought to you by our Dining on a Dime cookbook. We have quick and easy recipes your family will love to help you get in and out of the kitchen fast. Please visit us at livingonadime.com. It's 25% off now. So what did you have for breakfast?
There were all kinds of things. Well, first of all, we had this amazing lady come every day and cook for us. She was Belizean.
They were at a Mennonite camp type thing. You know, think of a Boy Scout bunkhouse type area. And so she was in the basement. And they went with a group.
Well, it wasn't the basement. It was the main floor.
Oh, it was? Okay. And they went with a group. So the group hired this lady to cook for everybody.
She was really amazing.
Because how much fast food was there that you guys could have access to?
There was no fast food anywhere, really. There was one place that was sort of the place where it was a special ice cream shop opportunity that our guide knew about and some other people had. And I think that's their version of fast food. Because it's a dairy. It was called Western Dairies. It's a dairy, you get ice cream, but they also have on the menu like hamburgers and pizza and all that. And of course, when you get that stuff, I mean, it was pretty close to what we'd have here as far as those types of things. But fast food was pretty much not a thing there at all. The Belizean food was amazing. They did have a lot of beef and a lot of eggs and a lot of, a lot of fresh things. So some of my favorite stuff was they had corn tortillas that were fluffy. So they were, if you can imagine the difference between a corn tortilla in the U.S. and a flour tortilla, how the flour tortillas are softer and maybe a little poofier. The corn tortillas there were probably twice as poofy as our flour tortillas, and they tasted amazing. And they were a little small, and I think every day there were people there that would make them and then go sell them. And actually, a funny little side trip to that, we were going from our base camp to one of the schools where we were working, and on the very first day, all these Americans in the van are Belizean drivers there, and it was pretty funny. Driving in Belize is a different experience entirely. Like basically,
your life was in danger every moment.
Well, the roads are striped like American roads, but a double yellow line doesn't really mean anything.
There's basically no traffic.
Stop signs
Yeah.
are sort of optional unless you have
Laws.
an accident. And even then, I don't know if they would make any reference to the stop sign. They would just... And apparently, if you have an accident, our driver told me that insurance, they're really intense about insurance, but he told me it covers the car. It doesn't cover medical stuff, he said.
Wow.
So I was surprised about that. But the funny thing is we were on our way over to this school, and this little Toyota
So
pickup.
let me just explain, because I don't think I explained this, or you. They went on a missions trip to help a school that
Two
had
schools
started over
and
there.
a church. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we were going to this one school where we spent the majority of our time, the very first time we were going to the school. And you kind of drive through this little rural residential type neighborhood, and then you drive past the government school, and then there's a little more space, and there's this school. And we actually did some stuff with that government school as well. But I guess we only had really two schools we were doing, but that one joined in with some stuff we were doing. So we were driving to the school that we were going to, and through this, like I said, little rural residential type neighborhood, and this little old Toyota pickup pulled up behind us, and it was just like beep 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 beep, and it was like swerving back and forth behind us. And one of the Americans in the van was like, because it was like, what is this guy road raging or something like that? And so he's like, what's going on with that guy back there? And our driver's like, it's fine, he's just selling tortillas. So apparently he was just driving through the neighborhood beeping a lot, so that
You would beep going one way.
making a big scene and beeping, so that the people in the neighborhood knew the tortilla
and
guy
he'd
is
come
here.
back again.
And then he'd come back again and drive to wherever. If you wanted tortillas, then you'd come out and buy them from him.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I learned that horns in Belize don't mean the same thing as they do here.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess sometimes they do, but most of the time it's like anytime you want to just say hi to somebody, you want to let them know you're doing something, anything, you honk your horn. And it wasn't like there were horns honking all the time, but it was funny because a lot of times it was just like people beeping to say hi to each other. And that was really something interesting. Actually, I was thinking about them when you said the Mennonites, the different kinds of Mennonite people that were there. But anyway.
So you discovered something funny about, so they went to church on the first, so they
Wait,
left
hold on a second. So on the tortilla thing real quick. My point on that was that these people, like a lot of times ladies and stuff will make these corn tortillas at home, and then they'll go sell them to places. And I think our lady that made the food for us, she could make them, but I'm pretty sure she was buying them from somewhere locally like that. And they were amazing. No matter what I ate for breakfast, I always had tortillas with it. Do you want to stay on the food, or do you want to get on the other thing?
Well, so what I was going to say was, and I don't remember now.
About the Mennonite church next door.
Oh, so they did think this was pretty funny. So, envision Mennonites in America, okay, have your Amish vision of Mennonites. That's basically what people think of Mennonites, even though it's not totally true. But anyway, so they went to church on the first Sunday there, and there was another church next door to them.
So, what happened is Belize is very third world, but I don't know, it feels kind of nice in certain ways. But we were on this base camp that the Mennonites have, which is like a scout camp with not really any hot water and like lots of bunk beds and stuff like that. And we were going to go to this other church that the people that we were visiting had started like 16 years ago. And it was like a concrete block building. It was nice, but I mean, it was not what you would expect in the U.S., and we didn't expect it to be that. But anyway, we came out of our base camp, and we were all circled up, and we were praying for the mission we were going on that day. Like, we're praying that we could go and be a blessing to the people, and that we would see things that would bless us, that God would work through the whole thing in whatever way he wanted. But on the Mennonite base camp, there was next to it, this was pretty much a rural type environment, but there was a huge building that was a Mennonite church across the little dirt road from where we were. And we're out there praying for success, that God would move on the mission and everything where we're going. And that building next door is like, we could hear voices, we can hear like worship singing and stuff like that. And like, this is a Mennonite church? This is like a charismatic church. I don't know.
It was more Pentecostal than Mennonite. It was
And we
pretty
had
funny
two,
hearing it described.
yeah, we had two Mennonite drivers with us. They weren't really guides, but they were kind of being like guides when we'd ask them questions. And I later asked this one lady, because she said, well, Mennonite's kind of a cultural thing here. I would call them non-denominational, but she said, but their Mennonite church seemed like it was more like Baptist type Mennonite, like a Baptist type church. But then there was the one next door that seemed like it was more like a Pentecostal charismatic type Mennonite church. And then we saw at times like people that had, they looked like the Amish in the U.S. almost, except not as fancy, which is to say people with like those brimmed hats, horses pulling wagons, but they were homemade wagons. Like they weren't the buggies, the fancy looking buggies that you see here. They were homemade little wagons, like with just a little piece of board on each side and stuff like that. So that was a very broad variety of different kinds of Mennonite people. Actually, I learned a lot of things on this trip. What people call themselves isn't exactly what I would expect based on what I see in the U.S.
Well, we know. So we got to tell you about Machete Man.
Wait,
call him Machete
we still
Man.
on the food or no?
No, I'm on Machete Man. Because you got to tell him how you almost died in Belize.
The irony is
He didn't even know anything was happening.
Well, I was only slightly aware that there was anything happening.
Okay, so they went to go pray and talk with people door to door. And in one place they were praying and talking with this guy.
Yeah, we had already prayed door to door for a little bit in bigger groups, but this one particular place we went to pray because we were told that this family really needed some help, and we went, and their house was pretty difficult. It was really sad to see because the houses there, even the pretty nice houses, they would be like one or maybe two rooms. So if you think of a bedroom at your house in America, that's the typical size of a whole house.
With no doors, no windows, no floor, just dirt.
Well, a lot of them have floors, but no doors and no windows. It just depends. The quality is dependent, I think, to some degree. I don't know. Some places the neighborhood is kind of picked up a little, and it's a little house with no doors or windows, but it has maybe a floor of some sort. And it's clear that in the neighborhood is generally more kind of clean.
What they use for couches.
Oh, yeah. Everywhere we went, there were a lot of car seats.
You know,
like
the back seats or van seats.
For
That's
couches.
what they use for couches.
They had been like removed from dead cars.
It was funny.
But there were places, and this is one of them, where it was really sad because there was a family there. There was a mom and a daughter that was maybe like young high school age, and a dad who was paralyzed from, I think, a stroke maybe. And their house was like a wooden kind of hut with dirt mud floor that had some rocks kind of pressed into it, like river rock. Not like they pressed them in intentionally, like it was just there. And it had signs on the floor that water had kind of been moving through their house, and no doors, no windows. It was pretty dark. We were in there praying, and it was a pretty amazing praying in groups for the people there. And but we were praying pretty fervently, and while we were praying, I heard this metal on metal clank and lots of kind of yelling and all this, and I was thinking, I'm not going to let the devil take me off of thinking about praying for this family. And I think some of the others in our group were like that too. But what I didn't notice, because I was kind of trying to just ignore the sound, what I didn't notice is that a couple people in our group were like, and they were looking out there seeing this. I think there were two guys that were thinking, we're gonna have to go do something in this situation.
And one of them's a big guy.
And
he's a football player.
I just opened my eyes, and there was a lady in our group, and she had both hands up and was praying in that direction.
She's Pentecostal, so she was
like she was, praying for safety. Anyway, so it turns out we had parked in we had a Mennonite driver who drove the car there and was waiting for us. But we had talked to the lady, a lady from the church had talked to the lady that lives at that house and said, hey, is it okay if we're here? Yeah, we're going to go over and talk to these people. And the lady's like, sure, no problem. Well, we parked kind of in the grass area on the edge there and walked across this little ditch and then around to the house where we were. But this guy had come out of that house who apparently had been drinking, and he went up and attacked the van with a machete.
He was not happy.
And he was cussing and getting all upset. And the driver, our driver, the Mennonite driver, was this young guy. Kind of reminded me of the Hermie the elf on Rudolph, and he's a really nice guy. But anyway, later on we got in the van, and I said he had moved, so he ended up moving the van across the street, and then the guy just kind of lost interest and went back in the house. And so I said, what happened out there? And he's like, oh, I think he just thought we were Americans. And so I was like, oh, that makes us feel better. But he ended up just moving the car across the street. So I didn't really feel particularly in any danger, but it was this kind of crazy moment. And I think the other guys that had seen were thinking, are we going to have to go over there and intercept this guy? Everyone had a machete. It was like the common tool used for everything. And this guy, his machete was kind of rusty and gnarly looking. And there was some question about what happened exactly. And you could see there was a mark on the side door of the van from the machete. I was surprised it didn't make a bigger mark, to be honest, based on the big metal-to-metal noise it made. But
this guy was coming after them with a machete, messing up all their car.
But I mentioned it to Tara from over there. She said, why do they hate Americans? I said, they don't hate Americans. He's the only guy that I can remember that was contrary in any way. But I said, I think the thing is that he just owns nothing. And his house is really, really a poor house. And I think
like he was being encroached on.
I kind of feel like my interpretation of it was, I own almost nothing, and you don't probably respect what I own, but it's mine. And so I'm going to protect it. And I kind of think that was his. So anyway, it was, I didn't ever feel really threatened. And the whole trip, I think it did feel like God was covering us and everything.
Yeah.
So it was pretty amazing.
Jack got to preach his first sermon.
Yep.
He was not excited about that. He was actually a nervous wreck, but then in the end, he was really glad that he did.
Well, and he's also on the worship team, and he was, they were practicing the worship ahead of time.
Yeah.
And this government school next door, kids were there with their fingers through the fence and looking over. And so one of the people in our group said, hey, any chance we could invite them to come over here? And so the director of the school where we were, it was a small school. She said, sure, we're trying to develop a relationship with them. So she called the school. Next thing we see, all the kids from the school are walking over down the street to come. So they all came too. So it was both schools there. And that worship was amazing. Like the chapel service was worship and skits and preaching from Jack. And then a number of us adults got up just to give some words to the school. But it ended up being kind of a prayer thing, and that was really nice too. So, yeah, it was great. There was a lot of stuff. But
the one thing they did notice, so there was even kids that went to the school that they literally lived in the dump. I mean, they did. They would come to schools on motorcycles too. I think
almost
you guys said 3 kids were on a motorcycle. And
well, there's like the kids
amazing.
that had vehicles, they drove themselves on these little motorcycles. But there were some of the kids, like a whole family would come on a motorcycle and drop off one of the kids and then drive off to go do something else. And it was definitely a different kind of environment.
But what did you guys notice about all the kids there?
Oh, they were happy. Actually, it's really interesting. We went to this elementary school, and the kids were dressed up in kind of uniforms, and the school was, there's no heating or air conditioning or anything like that. And the windows were all these kind of slat window things that you crank them and the slats open. And they were all open because it's hot, although I think they thought it was cold because it was only 85 degrees.
They said I went there and it was 80 degrees and everybody had hoodies on.
We were wearing hoodies and jackets and saying it was cold, that a cold front had come through. But they would just open the slat windows, and that was so for the U.S., where people are pretty entitled about everything, it was interesting because I've seen pictures, and when we were kids, there were places here that were like that, and it didn't seem like a big deal. But the kids were super happy. Obviously kids are kids. So some kids are like, oh, I wanted to play with the ball, and so-and-so was playing with the ball instead. But in general, they were all really happy and everything. And then we went walking through the neighborhoods right when school was ending and praying with families and stuff. And some of those kids, we'd come to their house and there would be no doors and no window and no floors. And we would talk to the family and they would seem pretty content and the kids were very happy. And I was like, this is a very different picture than America, where if you're going
have
home
everything.
to that house, your joy is in something else other than what you have, which I think is really amazing. And it's hard because you can hear people say that. It's so much different when you actually see it in real life and get to know the people. Man, the people were amazing there. Like, all the people were amazing. It was kind of sad, some of the situations that people were in. And it was a really nice place. I mean, I don't know. I felt good about being there. There were some places that we were told not to go, like South Belize City, but our guides didn't. They just knew not to take us there.
But it was interesting because Mike texted me. He said, "Can we leave our stuff here?" I'm like, I guess, yeah.
Do you care if we don't bring our clothes back?
I don't care unless it's something sentimental for you. And he's like, well, no. And they had said, how did they put it to you? They said, if you want to leave anything, how did they say
Our
that?
guide said, hey, if there's anything that you don't want that you brought, or you don't really like it and you just want to leave it, or maybe you do like it and you want to do something extra special for somebody because it's a special thing for you or whatever. Our group, he was a pastor from another church in Texas who was our guide. He said sometimes we leave things for them and they really greatly appreciate it. And if there's anything you'd like to do, we're going to have a little place down here where you can leave it.
Like extra shoes, clothes, medication.
So we're like, hey, what can we find in our stuff? Because I was thinking, based on everything we saw there, even the poorest Americans are rich.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Even the poorest Americans. Yeah. I've really not seen that kind of situation anywhere in America. I know there are some people in America that have some pretty rugged housing situations, but man. Yeah. So we were just like, what can we unload here? We can always get more. We were just thinking, this is in America, we can get on Amazon and we can replace these clothes.
Well, we had taken and packed up, I don't remember if it was 2 or 3 suitcases of school supplies. We took school supplies down. Well, I didn't go, but I helped pack it and buy it and everything. So we set down 2 suitcases of school supplies for them. But I didn't even think about, they need medication. They need clothes, probably socks and underwear. And, they don't have any of that stuff. And like Mike was leaving his Voltaren because he's got to have knee surgery because he tore his meniscus. And
I had this little tube of Voltaren because I got a small one. So because I had to get it through TSA. I was like, I wish I could give him more because I have a bigger tube at home and I just couldn't bring it. But I was there. It's funny because we were like, we could probably leave some stuff. So we started going through our stuff and we're like, we could leave all this really. But I was looking, thinking, would they find this useful? Would they find that useful? And it was a totally different perspective. I don't know. We had a driver.
But what I'm saying is if we went on a mission trip again, we would keep in mind
bring more stuff.
Bring stuff that we can leave there that they can use. So I would buy a brand new pair of shoes, wear it for while I was there, and then just wear my clunkers home, or something like that is probably what I would do. So. Or
like for me, the elementary school had a big swing set, like the old swing sets we used to use, and there was one swing on it. And there's a group going back in a couple months, and I said, and I can't go because I have the surgery, but we were going to say, or I was saying, we have to make sure we bring them some swings. Although it turns out, I heard since then that sometimes the issue with the swings is that people cut them down and steal them to sell the metal. So they were like, yeah, we need to make sure.
I wonder if you took a board, if they had board swings. But I wonder if you could take chains, or I don't know.
They use rubber tire swings with like rope. is what I've heard, and that they paint the rope, and it looks all decorative, and everything was really well. The places that were painted were very brightly colored too, which was really cool.
Yeah, that's what I hate about America is most of the places are just HOA colors.
Well, and going there, I already knew we should have no expectations for any kind of living situation for ourselves. We should be prepared for anything, and our place was easier because even though it was like scout camp, that was pretty high living compared to
no
other
hot
places.
water.
Yeah,
or
there was
showers.
no hot water. And
Only
the first
cold
day or two, I
showers.
was like, okay, we knew there was going to be no hot water. So it's a little bit uncomfortable, but hey, we already have more. Like we have no reason to complain. But after about the second day, I won't say I lingered in the cold showers, but I was thankful that we had water at all.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really thinking, oh, I'm missing anything anymore.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, I don't know, for some reason being there kind of makes you want to silence that complaining spirit. And even if you're not a complaining person, you would be surprised how many things they don't have.
Yeah.
That you think, oh, well, I don't have that. But then there were other places that were kind of, it was interesting because it was a little different. Like there was one day the girls wanted to go get coffee. And so we didn't have breakfast at our place. And we went to this little coffee shop breakfast place. And it was like everyone eats outside. It was a covered thing. It was pretty fancy in the sense that it was covered. And the food was really good. And it was a little more modern than some of the other stuff. I mean, by American standards, it would still be okay. It was like a little restaurant, coffee shop area. But it wasn't like hoity-toity.
Yeah.
But the food was spectacular. It was really great. The tortilla, I mentioned the fluffy tortillas, but they also had a lot of like refried beans. She would make, one time she had like eggs, this huge, giant
They had a lot of eggs there.
thing of eggs and beef, like mixed half and half. Or, I'm trying to think of what else. A lot of things with kind of peppers. Oh, there was this habanero sauce that they had there that was a Belizean thing, and we pretty much tried it on everything. One time there was a stew, and it was like all this meat and corn and peppers and things just put in the pot. And of course, the meat all still has the bones on it, and the corn is on the cob, and all this in the stew. And it was fine. It was just a different experience. And anytime you travel, you have different experience. So I wasn't that shocked because we've been to other countries that were not third world, but they still have things that are unexpected in how people do stuff. But it was pretty amazing stuff. But there were some unexpected things in terms of the food and all. They also had there were so many different things to make tacos out of, where she made things that I was thinking, oh, this would be good as a taco. Put it on the fluffy corn tortillas, put some Belizean sauce on it. It was fantastic. But yeah, lots of fruit, lots of different kinds of things with tortillas, beans, and a lot of beef. They have a lot of beef there. And the people, I don't know that a lot of people eat that every day in the more poorer areas. But there were a lot of people had chickens and sheep and stuff like that. And apparently their government, as a sort of they've started a fairly new thing, I think. They call it a starter kit. So if you're poor and you have nothing and you're asking the government for some kind of help, I don't think they have a major help program, but they do give some people something. But one of the things, you can sign up for the starter thing and they give you 30 baby chicks, 2 sheep, and a bunch of wire fence so you can keep predators from killing them. I thought, well, that's pretty amazing, teaching people to try to raise themselves up through. But a lot of the growing their own food like that.
But one thing they said interesting.
That's sort of it's not affluent, but it's like if you're more financially successful if you have some sort of livestock.
Yeah. But what did Oscar say about your driver say about, remember you were talking about people being poor, and what did he say about people being poor and improving their lives?
So
which is so like Americans.
He wasn't saying everybody is. He said, well,
So Mike was talking about, or somebody was talking
people
about
being
improving their
poor
lives and how they're poor and how can they bring themselves up into a
well,
better
some places,
situation.
yeah, he said, well, some people just get content with what they have and they don't necessarily try to do something better.
Oh my goodness, that resonated so much with me. That's why we changed our channel from living on a dime to living on a dime to grow rich, because we have that same mentality in America. Some people just do not want to get out of the bottom that they're at. They just don't want to. And it's a worldwide thing. And so my point is, people look at these third world countries, and part of the problem is some of the people just don't want to get out of it.
Yeah. Well, also, it was interesting talking to him because I had made a comment about one place we went. Well, the house where we were praying where the Machete guy came. And I was thinking about the girl, the young high school girl. And I was thinking, if you come home after a hard day at school and this is your house, how is that? Like in America, you come back to your house and you're like, thank goodness I can close the door on the world and it's relaxing and comforting. But is it?
No.
Is it relaxing and comforting?
No. Well, first of all, because most people's houses are in total chaos. But
no, I meant there. But I meant
there.
And I was thinking, if you don't have lights in your house or water or doors or windows, how do you imagine in your mind, what can I do to make this better?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that. I do think that people just have a thing in them to think, how can I make it better? But that was kind of the thought in my mind is like, when you're in such poverty, I could see people would be really hopeless. Like literally, there is nowhere in America. I've been to a lot of places in America and not seen anything as poor as what I saw there.
Yeah.
But it was interesting in light of that our driver, Oscar, well, so we had a number of different drivers, 2 Mennonite people and a local Belizean guy who was really amazing. And I literally spent 3 hours a day talking to him intensely because I was riding in the front seat with him. But he basically was this, he kept saying, I don't really have the right education and I'm limited and this and that. But he was Mr. Entrepreneur. He'd been a driver. He's still a driver there.
He said he sold some stuff, but I can't remember what.
I don't remember the selling stuff, but he was thinking about being a caretaker at somebody's house. There's some people that know him. They know his history of just get out there and get it done kind of work. And so they wanted him to manage their business. Like while I was there, all these offers were coming into him because they know he's a guy that just gets out there and does stuff.
Wants to work, yeah.
Because it needs to be done.
Yeah.
And he was a pretty amazing guy, and his family was amazing. I got to hold their baby. Oh, I was like, wow, I haven't held a baby since Jack was a baby.
I haven't either.
It was super nice, and he was such a sweet little baby. But anyway, but he was a really amazing guy, and it did make me realize, no matter the circumstances, people can improve if they think about it. Like I was thinking,
but it's in their mind to improve. It doesn't have anything to do with their situation.
I do think
it's all in their mind if they want to improve.
Because I was thinking in myself, if I was in the house where, like I said, the Machete guy was, I think I would be pretty discouraged about life, and I might not want to do much of anything. But I think on some point, there's the other part of me that's like, I don't want to just leave things the way they are. I might just get up and go out and pick up the trash.
Yeah.
And then I might, I don't know, do something really small like that. Because those small things build up to big things and become better. And our driver, Oscar, his house was not what you would expect here in the U.S., but it was, what do you call that stuff they put on houses in New Mexico is known for it?
Stucco?
Yeah, it was kind of like, it looked like a stucco thing. It was painted. It didn't have a door, but it had a curtain where the door would be instead of nothing. And they had a concrete floor. And I think maybe, I couldn't tell if there were we didn't go in the house, so I didn't know if there were one or two rooms, but the neighborhood was clean and people were out walking around. Well, people were walking around in the entire country, but it just had a better feel to the neighborhood. And I just think it's because the people there sort of had a little more desire to do whatever possible to kind of make things better. So it was pretty pleasant. Although after that whole experience, I was like, we would occasionally drive past this one giant warehouse building, and he said, that's where they make houses. And out front, they had these houses that were like...
Tiny houses.
they were like big sheds, like the kind you might see at Home Depot. But they had like maybe a window and a door, and it looked like a kind of a nice little tiny house. And I remember thinking, that looks like a pretty nice place to live.
Did he say they were $5,000? Is that what, I think that's what he said?
$5,000,
yeah.
Belizean dollars. That would be 2,500 American dollars.
Wow.
But that was for basically a tiny house. But a tiny house was a standard house there.
So you're saying we should sell everything and go get 10 of those and put them in a circle, and that could be, one could be the studio, one could be the kitchen, one could be the bathroom.
Well, and I have to say, we were at this elementary school, and one of the kids were familiar with other places in the world and American media. They're like, what kind of car do you have? And I was like, I had already had this conversation with our driver, and he told me how he had been doing this entrepreneurial stuff for so long, and he'd been a driver, and he was driving until his car blew up. I mean, I say it blew up, just the engine broke, like it cracked or something, and it was not fixable. And I said, did it have a lot of miles on it? And he said, oh, it was very tired. And I think he didn't know how many miles it had, because I think it just stopped counting. But it was a Toyota Corolla, 1977, when he told me that. And it was his dream car. But now he's been saving, and it's been a while, and he's doing jobs for other people who are using their vehicles while he's saving money. And he seemed to suggest he was just about ready to be able to buy his next kind of dream car, which is a much more upgraded, newer version. And he said, yeah, I'm thinking maybe a 1992 Toyota Corolla. And it just, I don't know, that just kind of got me, because I was like, here, he's looking at that and thinking, this is wonderful, this is amazing. And here in America, people would be like,
yeah, we have a 2000.
That 2022 something is a piece of junk. I want to get rid of it. And I'm going to get this new thing and get payments on it, and it's going to be $80,000, but my payments are only going to be so many thousand, and I'm going to borrow over 7 years. And here he's like, 1992 Toyota Corolla will be my dream car. And it just, I don't know, it was very convicting. We don't think that way about our cars.
Tell him what the little boy said about our house.
Well, the reason why I'm telling you the story about Oscar here is we have two vehicles three if you count Grandpa's pickup, but we have two vehicles. We have a 2015 Toyota SUV, and then we have like a 2000 Toyota Camry. And the 2000 Camry, I think, it seems like it's an older vehicle, but I'm like, it still drives just fine. But when the kids at the school, they were asking a lot of questions about things, and they're like, yeah, what kind of car do you have? And I was like, we have a 2000 Camry. Just because I was thinking, I don't want to make them feel bad. I felt like I was going to make them feel bad if I say, oh, we have a fancy, snazzy 2015, whatever. And ours is like used. Like we bought it used, and it was considered to be all used up by the lady who sold it to us. And still, I was like, that's too new of a car. If I tell them, I don't want to just be discouraging to them. The same kid then asked me, oh, how big is your house? And I was like,
because our house is 5,000 square feet, plus we have this 1,500 square foot garage.
Well, their school, this is the elementary school. There were two buildings, and each building was maybe like 1,000 square feet. And I was like, well, it's bigger than that building. And he's like, what? You live in a hotel? But I didn't want to tell him how much bigger, because we don't really need the house as big as this, but it came with the property that we needed. Yeah. We need the property for our business, but the house is probably twice what we would usually have. But even the house that we would have gotten normally would have been a hotel for them. And so I almost felt, I was like, I didn't say how big it was. I just said, well, it's bigger than this. But the same kid, though, he was like, what kind of phone do you have? Do you have an iPhone?
He's the one that's going to make something of himself.
Yeah, is it the iPhone 17 or 18 or something? I don't even know what the models are. And then he's like, or is it a Samsung? Is it a Samsung? He knew all the details about all the phones, and I was like, wow, kid. But anyway, he was asking a lot of questions. But I was thinking about the cars, and I was thinking about our 2000 Camry, which Tara had said last year, should we be looking at something else just in case this doesn't last anymore? And I'm thinking about Oscar wanting to buy a 1992 Corolla and thinking, I think we should keep the Camry.
Yeah, you're not the one cleaning the oil spills all over the driveway off.
Oh, we need to fix it. It's only leaking a tiny bit, but it's a tiny bit over a lot of time. So yeah, we'll need to get it fixed. But maybe Oscar could fix it for us.
Yeah, he probably could.
Give it to Oscar.
He would
I
probably
would
get it
seriously
fixed.
give it to him if we could get it to Belize.
Yeah, probably get confiscated on the way down there if we drove it down, but...
'Cause I don't know. It's funny the desire to just give everything away to them when we met them was pretty amazing. I mean, you don't want to give everything away because when people just get stuff for nothing, they use it up and it's gone. And that's kind of one thing Oscar said too. But for people that are doing something and reaching out and striving to try to make their things better, some kind of help like that isn't bad.
Yeah, like the school, they're actually trying to, what are they trying to build an orphanage, and they're trying to buy the land that they're on and all this because they're trying to improve it so that they can help more. Well, I don't mind sending them, you know, a whole bunch of stuff for them to help.
It's a private school, but their students, I think the students can't really afford to pay. I'm not sure how
I don't know
how they're doing it, but it's an amazing little school with amazing kids.
And it was really sad because they said they needed, $16,000 just to pay off their land. And I was like, oh my goodness, that is nothing in America. And for them, that was like $1 million, you know? And so it really puts things in perspective.
Most Americans waste that much every year.
They waste that much just eating out and coffee a year, let alone hair and nails. And
so it was funny because I've heard stories like that from people on videos like this before, and I knew it was true, but being there and getting to meet the people in real life and seeing the situations in real life made it a whole lot more real, and it made it hard to come back. Because we come back, we feel a little weird about stuff that people are complaining about here.
Well, you have so much. All right, so I thought I'd explain because a lot of videos are going to be talking about our trip to Belize, and you're going to be like, what? Or Mike's trip to the Belize. What was that all about? And
if we go again, I'm going to drag her along.
I don't know. After my trip to Florida, I don't know if I'm ever getting on another airplane again. I'll row my boat to Belize and go. Tara Road.
I think she would find it interesting there, and I think, believe it or not, I think she would do very well there, despite the fact that here...
I don't think it would bother me at all. Yeah, because, I mean, I'm used to roughing it and living without water and electricity and all that kind of stuff, so that stuff doesn't really bother me. But, yeah. They do say they need help. They need workers a lot, and I was like, wow. Americans could go down and help them so much just with work stuff like at the school.
Well, since our business is remote, we're like, could we go down there for a month or two and
help them out? And so anyway, that's the trip to Belize. So when you hear me talking about it, that's the short version of what happened.
Actually, one other thing, if you haven't heard of Belize, it was formerly known as British Honduras, and it's in the Yucatan Peninsula on the south part of Mexico.
Yep.
So, yep.
All right, businesslivingondime.com. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.